English Podcast Official, hosted by Raam
And you're Sia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English Podcast Official. My name is Raam.
And I'm Sia. We are so happy you've chosen to join us for a conversation that is filled with curiosity.
Sia, do you ever just look up at the night sky?
I do. I remember being a child and just staring at the stars, feeling so small. They felt like tiny, glittering lights in a storybook.
They do, don't they? And as a kid, you don't think about the science. You just feel the wonder.
It's a feeling of pure possibility that anything could be out there. It's a feeling I think we all have inside us, that pull towards the unknown.
I felt that same feeling just the other day, but in a very modern way. I was watching a live stream of a rocket launch online.
And what did that feel like? Was it the same as looking at the stars as a child?
It was similar, but also different. The wonder was there, this incredible machine lifting off the ground. But now, as an adult, it was mixed with these deep, complex questions.
Questions like what?
Questions like, why are we doing this? What are the real challenges? Is our dream of going to other planets, like Mars, a real, achievable goal? Or is it just a beautiful story we tell ourselves?
So it's the place where the childhood dream meets the adult reality.
Exactly. And that intersection of dream and reality is one of the most exciting places to explore.
And it's such a great place to learn, too. The language we use to talk about these big ideas, about science, hope, and challenges, is so powerful for any English learner.
That's why today, we're diving into one of humanity's biggest questions. We're going to explore the incredible science and the profound human dilemmas of putting a person on the red planet.
So join us as we ask, can we actually live on Mars? Or is that just a movie dream? Okay, Ram, I want to start with a hypothetical. Let's imagine we've done it. The journey is over, and the first human astronaut is about to step onto the surface of Mars.
I like this. So we're there. The door of the lander opens.
My question is, what would that first day on Mars actually feel like? What would our senses experience?
Well, the first thing you'd notice is the light. Because the atmosphere is so thin, the sky isn't the rich blue we know. It would be a pale, pinkish tan color.
A pink sky. That alone would feel so alien. What about the landscape?
You would see a vast, dusty, reddish desert, covered in rocks and craters, and it would be utterly silent.
Silent? Why silent?
Because sound needs a medium to travel through. The thin Martian air can't carry sound well at all. It would be a profound, deep quiet that we rarely experience on Earth.
So you have a pink sky, a red desert, and almost total silence. It sounds beautiful, but also incredibly lonely.
And it would be intensely cold. Even on a warm day at the equator, the temperature would be far below freezing.
So it's this moment of incredible triumph for humanity. But for that one person, it must be a moment of the most profound isolation imaginable. Awe and terror all at once.
And all of that is experienced from behind the visor of a helmet because of our next big question. Could we even breathe?
Yes, let's talk about that. In the movies, sometimes you see heroes with just a simple mask. What is the reality of the Martian air?
That is pure science fiction, unfortunately. The reality is that the atmosphere is completely unbreathable.
Why exactly?
Two main reasons. First, its composition. It's about 95% carbon dioxide. Our bodies need oxygen. Second, the atmospheric pressure is less than 1% of Earth's.
So it's not just that the air is wrong, but there's also not enough of it. It's like the difference between a glass of water and a single drop of mist.
A perfect analogy. Without a pressurized suit or habitat, a human would lose consciousness in under a minute. Survival is 100% dependent on technology.
So that dream of taking a deep breath of fresh air on a new world, that's not possible on Mars.
Not naturally, but this is where the science gets incredibly clever. NASA has an experiment on Mars right now, on the Perseverance rover. It's called MOXIE.
And what does MOXIE do?
It actually pulls in the Martian carbon dioxide and successfully converts it into small amounts of pure oxygen.
So we are literally practicing how to create our own breathable air on another planet. That's incredible.
It's a groundbreaking proof of concept, but the scale needed for a human colony would be enormous.
Okay, so we need a sealed habitat to breathe, but where do we put that habitat? Where would we actually live to be safe?
That's our third big question, and it leads to the subterranean dilemma.
Subterranean meaning underground? Why would we have to live underground?
For two reasons that we talked about earlier, the extreme cold and the constant, intense radiation from space.
Because the thin atmosphere doesn't offer protection like Earth's does.
Exactly. So, the most effective way to shield a human habitat from both the cold and the radiation is to use the Martian soil itself.
So we would either have to bury our habitats under several meters of soil, or perhaps find natural shelters like lava tubes or caves.
Lava tubes are considered a leading option. They are natural, pre-made tunnels left behind by ancient volcanic activity on Mars, and they would provide excellent protection.
That's fascinating from an engineering perspective, but it brings up such a human question.
Which is?
Do we travel across the solar system hundreds of millions of miles just to become a species that lives underground?
It's a powerful thought to leave a world of sunshine and open skies for a life inside a cave, no matter how advanced it is.
It makes you think about our innate need for sunlight, for seeing a horizon, for feeling connected to a landscape. It's a huge psychological sacrifice.
It is. And speaking of basic needs, let's say we have our safe underground habitat. Our next big question is, what would we eat?
Right. A 9-month journey is too long to bring all of your food. You have to be able to grow it there, the ultimate farmer's market.
And you can't just plant seeds in the ground. The Martian soil, its scientific name is regolith, is very different from Earth's.
What's wrong with it?
It lacks the organic matter and nutrients that plants need,
And it also contains toxic chemicals like perchlorates that would need to be removed.
So any Martian farm would have to be more like a laboratory. It would be in a sealed greenhouse.
Yes, using techniques like hydroponics, where plants are grown in nutrient-rich water instead of soil. Every drop of water, every ray of artificial light would be carefully controlled.
It makes me think about the joy of food on Earth, the culture, the comfort, the spontaneity of eating a fresh piece of fruit. The engineering challenges of Martian farming sound insane, entirely based on technology and the precision of science.
On Mars, for a long time, food would be purely functional. It would be fuel, scientifically engineered for survival.
But the fact that we're already solving these problems, finding water ice, experimenting with creating oxygen, is amazing.
It's all part of that idea we mentioned, in situ resource utilization. Using the resources of Mars to build a life there. It's the only way it's possible.
Which brings us to the biggest question of all. We've talked about all these incredible challenges. Why are we so obsessed with this dream anyway?
That's our fifth and perhaps most important talking point, the motivation.
On one hand, you have the pure human reasons, the ones we feel in our hearts.
The spirit of the pioneer, the fundamental curiosity that drove early explorers across oceans, the need for humanity to have grand, unifying goals.
It gives us a story to be a part of, something bigger than our individual lives.
Then you have the scientific and pragmatic reasons. The search for past life on another world is one of the biggest scientific questions we can ask.
To find out if we are or ever were alone in the universe, that would change everything.
And then there's the long-term survival argument. The idea that to protect humanity from a catastrophe on Earth, we must become a multi-planetary species.
It's such a mix of hope and sadness. The hope that we can reach for the stars, and the sadness that we have to consider a backup plan for our beautiful home.
Which leads to our last talking point, a different way of looking at the whole dream.
What's that?
What if the main benefit of trying to go to Mars isn't about living there at all, but about what we learn trying to get there?
You mean the technology we invent along the way?
Exactly. To survive on Mars, we have to invent perfect systems for recycling air and water. We have to create ultra-efficient ways to grow food in closed environments. We need new sources of clean energy.
All of those are technologies we desperately need to improve life and sustainability here.
On Earth. That's the idea. The problems of Mars force us to solve the problems of Earth.
And maybe looking at Mars, that cold, hostile, dusty world, is the best way to truly appreciate our own planet, to see how precious and unique this living, breathing world actually is. Maybe the dream of Mars is what helps us fall in love with Earth all over again.
A beautiful thought. And this entire conversation, from the science to the philosophy, is full of powerful English vocabulary.
It really is. And to help us decode some of that language with clarity, let's bring in our wonderful vocabulary strategist, Maruti.
Thank you, Raam and Sia. Hello, curious listeners. The language we use to dream about the future is as important as the technology. Let's analyze 10 key terms. Terraforming. The hypothetical process of transforming a hostile planet into one that can support life like Earth. Example: terraforming Mars is a popular idea in science fiction books. Hostile environment. A place where the conditions are extremely difficult or dangerous for humans to live. Example: due to the cold and radiation, Mars is a hostile environment. Radiation. A form of energy, especially from space, that can be very harmful to living things. Example: long-term exposure to cosmic radiation is a major health risk. Regolith: the layer of dust and broken rock that covers the solid surface of a planet or moon. Example: scientists are studying the composition of Martian regolith. In situ resource utilization: the practice of using local materials found on another planet to survive. Example: creating oxygen from the atmosphere is a form of in situ resource utilization. Atmospheric pressure: the force or weight of the air in a planet's atmosphere. Example: the atmospheric pressure on Mars is too low to support human life. Subterranean: existing or happening under the surface of the Earth. Example: to be safe from radiation, habitats may need to be subterranean. Psychological toll: the negative mental and emotional impact of a difficult experience. Example: years of isolation would have a heavy psychological toll on astronauts. Pioneer: a person who is among the first to do something new, like explore a new place. Example: the first humans on Mars would be considered pioneers of a new era. Multiplanetary species: a species like humans that can live and sustain itself on more than one planet. Example: the goal for some is to make humanity a multiplanetary species. This vocabulary helps you move from simply dreaming about space to discussing it with intelligence and clarity. Now, back to you.
Thank you, Maruti. It's amazing how learning the right words makes a complex topic feel so much more accessible.
It really does. And before we go, we want to leave you with a small question to connect this huge idea to your own inner world.
This whole conversation has been about a grand, futuristic dream. But all big dreams are made of small, personal feelings. So our reflection prompt for you is this: putting aside all the science and challenges, what does the dream of exploring a new world like Mars spark in your own imagination?
There is no wrong answer. It might be a feeling of excitement, a sense of curiosity, or even a little bit of fear. Your personal reaction is a wonderful thing to explore. Uplifting, thoughtful closing music begins to fade in softly. So is living on Mars just a movie dream? For now, perhaps it is. The obstacles are truly monumental.
But the dream itself is not just valuable, it's essential. The questions it forces us to ask and the curiosity it ignites are what push humanity forward.
And as Sia said so beautifully, sometimes the best way to appreciate your home is to dream of another one.
It reminds me of learning a new language. At first, that new language can feel like an alien planet. The grammar is a hostile environment, the vocabulary is unknown, and you feel isolated, unable to express yourself.
You are completely dependent on your tools, your dictionary, your apps, just like an astronaut is on their life support.
Exactly, but your curiosity drives you. You use your tools to explore. Each new word is a piece of the landscape you've mapped. Each conversation is a small habitat you've built. And slowly, with patience and resilience, you transform that alien world into a place where you can comfortably live and understand. That is the spirit of the pioneer, whether on Mars or in a new language.
A perfect thought to end on. Thank you for taking this journey with us on the English Podcast Official.
Until next time, keep asking big questions, stay curious, and be kind to yourself.